Hi, Kristian Harris of MonsterMortgage.ca. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about credit score, beacon score. The credit part of the mortgage application is kind of an interesting one because it's an unknown one to our clients. And what I mean by that is everyone knows what they make for a living. People know how much down payment they have for the house that they're going to buy. People know what the value of their home is if they're doing a refinance, but people don't know what their credit score is, and a lot of times people are worried. I don't know. I was late on a Bell payment or a Rogers payment. I have a gas card that I is $100 over the limit. So it's kind of an unknown that people are worried about when it comes to applying for a mortgage. Now, we know that there's places that you can get an updated credit score. Banks allow you to check your own credit, which is great. It's probably a good indicator. It gives you a score. If you're, in the 700s or 800s, that means you probably have good credit. Two things on that. A credit score doesn't paint the picture, and I'll get to that in a second. But the other thing is that same bank will not use that credit score that they're showing you on their portal. They will not use that score when you submit an mortgage application to them. They're going to predominantly use Equifax or TransUnion or both. They won't use their internal ones. So just keep that in mind. And when I say a credit score doesn't paint the entire story, it's true. You could have a 720 beacon score and someone says, well, that's a very good score. And it is. But if you were to look at that credit and it's a 24-year-old and they've had a credit card for 6 months and that limit is $500 or $700, that's not giving you a good indication if they can handle credit. That's giving you very little information because they don't have access to a lot of credit and they haven't had it for a long period of time. I've seen files, we've all seen files if you're in the industry, where you could have two people with 600 or 620, whatever the beacon score is, and one that you would lend them money because of maybe the reason they're there, whether it was a marital breakup or there was an illness, and the other one you wouldn't lend because they cannot handle credit or they're credit seekers. And that's another issue we usually get is someone says, oh, I don't want you to pull my credit, it's going to hurt my score. That's a bit of a myth. Credit seeking will hurt your score, and more importantly, not just seeking credit, but using it. Typically, people with bad credit, yes, that's who it's going to hurt, but they already have bad credit. If you have good credit, you're not a habitual credit seeker, you're not going to hurt your beacon score or hurt your credit chances of getting a mortgage with your credit by doing an inquiry. It's the people that are seeking credit, every month, every 2 months, and using that credit, they're typically the ones with the lower beacon score. Doesn't mean if you have a lower beacon score you can get a mortgage. Yes, you can. Now, when you're buying for less than 20% down in your high ratio, you do have to have a certain credit score, minimum credit score. But if you're putting down 20% or more, there are institutions that will lend to you even if your credit score is low, but they do want to know the story. They do want to know if this was, like I said, a marital breakup or an incident in life or something, a life event that happened versus someone who, just doesn't handle credit that well. So, and it's important to understand how credit works. How long have you had the credit? What is your limits? What are you at the limits? What's your usage? Minimum payments, or people think you have to pay the whole thing off every month. No, but should I just make the minimum? Well, no, make a bit more. These are all things that affect the credit. Again, it's a bit of an unknown, but if you have a mortgage or you're looking to buy, you need to have your credit pulled at the beginning. And people will say, well, don't pull my credit right now. I'm just looking only when I buy. That could get you into trouble. It's important to understand your credit, and sometimes you might need a few months to repair that credit. And there's strategies, ways around that. So don't be afraid of credit. Speak to your broker about your credit score. Let a mortgage broker look at your credit score, and they can, in most cases, advise you how to bring up that score in order to have you qualify for a mortgage. So don't be afraid of the word credit report or beacon score. If you have any questions, give us a call. Thank you.